all court matters. Start. Therefore, it only issued directions to strengthen the investigation by Vigilance Commissioner in paragraph 13 of the said judgment. In that context, the court noted that it was not necessary to transfer the inquiry investigation to CBI. That is the thrust of the analysis of the previous judgments. If read in proper perspective, these aspects have been duly taken note of in the impugned judgment in paragraph 107 onwards, including the legal position on the doctrine of res judicata, and finally ensured in paragraphs 141 to 144 of the impugned judgment in the following words: as observed by K.K. Sasidharan and G.R. Swaminathan, the Vigilance Commission headed by the Vigilance Commissioner has extensive powers to curb corruption and initiate action against government servants and servants of public sector undertakings for acceptance of illegal gratification and matters incidental thereto. The State Vigilance Commission might inquire into allegations of corruption against officials of the state government. The State Vigilance Commission might also conduct a detailed inquiry to fix the responsibility for the loss of the file containing incriminating materials handed over to the then Chief Secretary by the Principal Director of Income Tax investigation on 12/8/2016 and ensure that the guilty are brought to book and approach it action taken in accordance with law. However, investigation by the Vigilance Department is from the angle of vigilance. The aim is to detect corruption. The power of the Vigilance Commission to investigate would not extend to an inquiry into the modus operandi of the Gutkha mafia, the mode and manner of import from the state's distribution and sale of Gutkha and other chewable forms of tobacco, and detection of the sources of supply. Energy by the Vigilance Department would not unearth secret storage and manufacturing units, nor would such investigation be able to detect incidents of illegal import, supply and sale, or nab those actually manufacturing, supplying, importing, selling, or otherwise dealing with prohibited food items containing tobacco and nicotine, such as Gutkha. Investigation by a centralized agency like the CBI would be more comprehensive and cover all aspects of the illegal manufacture, import, supply, distributor, and sale of banned chewable tobacco items, including the detection of all those involved in such illegal import, manufacture, supply, distribution, and sale, as also the detection of corruption and complicity of public servants and or government servants in this regard. As observed above, there is no conflict between CBI investigation and investigation by the state machinery. investigation can be carried out more effectively with the CBI and the Vigilance Department working in cooperation. The underground gutkha business is a crime against society which needs to be curbed. We therefore deem it appropriate to direct the CBI to investigate into all aspects of the offense of illegal manufacturing, import, supply, distribution, and sale of gutkha and other forms of chewable tobacco and which are banned in the state of Tamil Nadu. By consecutive order passed on the same day, the aforesaid two applications were disposed of by the trial court, thereby dismissing an application filed by the petitioner under Section 5 and 8 of the said Act and allowing the said application filed by the opposite party number 1 under Section 151 of the Code directing the officer in charge motor theft section detective department Lal Bazar to forthwith realized the vehicle in question and to hand over the same to the opposite party number 1. Mr. Menak Bose, learned advocate appearing on behalf of the petitioner, assailed the impugned order on the ground that once the court finds that there is an existence of a valid arbitration agreement, the court is left with no option but to refer the parties to an arbitration as the provisions contained under Section 8 of the said Act are mandatory. He further argues that the trial court disposed of the said application filed by the petitioner under Section 5 and 8 of the said Act on technicalities without advertising itself as to the merit thereof, and further contended that the said order is not sustainable. Mr. Shyamal Chakravarti, learned advocate appearing on behalf of the opposite party, disputed the containing of the petitioner in containing that the opposite party number 1 as plaintiff challenges the very argument being a produce of fraud, and as such it is not the arbitrator but the civil court which can decide such dispute. He further contends that the opposite party number 2 is not a party to arbitration agreement, and such it is only the civil court which can decide the disputed involved in the said suit. He strenuously argued that the person who affirmed and verified the said application on behalf of the petitioner as a constituted attorney and or authorized signatory did not produce any document of his authority, and as such the said application is liable to be dismissed. The opposite party number 1 has filed the said suit alleging that for the purpose of financial assistance in buying the motor vehicle in question, she approached the opposite party number 2, who agreed to grant to extend the loan of rupees 3,94,000 in an earlier part of the month of October 2004, the petitioner granted the loan to the opposite party number 1 for purchase of the said vehicle, and the loan amount with accrued interest was agreed to be replied in 47 equated monthly installments of rupees 11,097 commencing on and from 5th November 2004. It is further alleged that the said loan was agreed to be granted strictly in terms of the RBI guidelines. At the time of granting the loan, the opposite party number 2 got the opposite party number 1 signed various blank documents and papers, about 60-70 numbers, which the opposite party number 1 in good faith executed and signed without ascertaining the contents therein. Thus, the opposite party number 2 has practiced fraud upon the opposite party number 1. It is only on October 29, 2004, opposite party number 2 issued a letter to the opposite party number 1 indicating that the loan has been extended to her by the petitioner, and the payments of installments to be made directly to the petitioner. Stop.